Hey everyone, I'm Dare. And this YouTube channel is really an opportunity for me to share knowledge and experience of what I've learned in the world of film production, as well as content creation, and really a chance to sort of hopefully act as a mentor for you that can help save you painful experiences that I've learned already from the School of Hard Knocks. You probably already figured this out because we're doing a film teardown, but there will be spoilers in this. So if you haven't seen Saint Maud already, I highly recommend that you go to Netflix, iTunes, wherever you want, and watch the film first so that you can see it as an audience. And now we're gonna tear it apart as filmmakers to really see how did they make this machine called a movie, and how did they do it really intelligently to stretch every dollar they had and create a film that launched a career.
Forgive me my impatience, but I hope you will reveal your plan for me soon. I can't shake the feeling that you must have saved me for something greater than this.
So today I want to talk to you about independent filmmaking, and regardless of where you are, whether being a filmmaker is your day job or night job or whatever it is, I think a great place for any of us to start in terms of making money that funds our passion is as a content creator, because you get to practice the craft of filmmaking, but you're making money daily while doing it. So I wanted to share with you in the free download below a little ebook I put together called 7 Steps to Breaking Through as a Content Creator. Because being successful as a content creator will give you the funds and the time that you need to be able to work on your passion projects and the indie films that you're gonna do. All right, let's get into it. What is the difference between a filmmaker and not a filmmaker? Well, a filmmaker makes films, somehow, some way. And today I want to talk about that somehow, some way, to put it into tangible terms of things you can do to actually start getting films done. Now, no matter what film you work on, whether it's a huge Hollywood movie or a small independent film, they're all gonna go through the same 7 or 8 basic phases. So included also in the download is the filmmaker's checklist. And you'll notice when you open this that it starts with a section called resources. The biggest, most important thing when you're producing independent films is what resources do you have to make that film with. If you need an intergalactic star cruiser and you only have a $15,000 budget,
I'm sorry, Captain Kirk.
probably not the right script for you to start with, but you can go for it if you want. And I believe from the producer hat that you shouldn't even start writing a script until you know what resources that you have realistically to put into that film. Because anything you put in there that you don't have is gonna make it take longer and be more complicated. And I know there's a part inside of you right now that's screaming and rebelling against this concept because you're creative, you want to do anything you can imagine, but trust me when I say this, you can either be one of the hundreds of thousands of people who just say they want to make a movie and they never do, or you can be one of those in the less than 1% who actually get a film made. And for me, it starts with resources. There are specific resources that every film needs behind the camera and in front of the camera. So we're gonna talk about the 5 main ones in front of the camera that are super crucial for indie films. And that is 1, locations or sets, 2, set or production design, 3, actors, 4, wardrobe, and 5, complicated elements. To help you visualize what really these 5 resources are, we're gonna take a look at Saint Maud, which is a really well-produced independent film that helped launch that filmmaker's career, and where I think they managed the resources that they had incredibly well. And I don't want to look at Blair Witch or Paranormal Activity, which are incredibly successful films. I want to look at something that has a little bit of a finer look to it, and which might be kind of more along the lines of what I think many filmmakers are trying to do. So let's look at the first one, which is locations and sets. Locations and sets. The first most fundamental thing that any film needs is a place to film in. And this is either a location, which is an existing place that you go and shoot at, or it's a set, which is built in a studio. Very few indie films have the budget to have good looking sets built. So we almost always go out and film in actual locations. And another key part of this is finding a location which has multiple locations inside of it so that you don't have to drive 20, 30 minutes to the next place. And this is honestly why a lot of people shoot in big houses, because you can have 10 different locations within one location. And Saint Maud is a great example of how they did this to the benefit of the film. Now remember, every film potentially has anywhere between 80 to 120, 130 scenes, depending on the speed or rhythm of the film. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at how they did this in Saint Maud. So of their 100 scenes, it looks like they shot in about 20 different locations, which is really decent for an indie. Again, remember, when you have money, you can do whatever you want. When you don't have a lot of money, you need to be really smart with your resources. But actually, if you break the film down further, they really only shot in 7 places. Let's look at how they did it. They shot in this nondescript sort of shower hospital room 2 to 3 times, and that's about 1 minute and 15 seconds of the film. They shot in Maud's apartment 7 times for a total of 18.5 minutes. Realize in an 83-minute film, that's almost 25% of the film in one room.
Sorry I couldn't see you the other night, by the way. I was so shattered, I don't think it would have been much fun, to be honest with you. I tried to call, but you didn't pick up. Siggy?
But by spreading it throughout the entire film, you never really feel like you're in there too long at any one moment. They shot in North Yorkshire Scarborough exterior, which is for their streets, their beaches, their piers, and their dock, for about 20 of their scenes, for 12.5 minutes of the film. And this includes the entrance to Maud's apartment twice, the stairs down to the main street twice, Main Street itself 6 times, the hillside in front of the Ferris wheel 2 times, a diner location 1 time, the beach 2 times, and then the lighthouse walkway or the docks area 2 times. And again, I looked at this on Google Maps, really smart, different looking locations, all within 15 minutes of each other, which means you can take your crew and your equipment and you can walk down the street instead of driving 2 or 3 hours to a different place and having to reset up each time. Smart production. So they shot in this bar scene with its bathroom, and that was for 2 scenes for about 4 minutes. They shot in an agency office once for 29 seconds. There's this bedroom where the one-night stand happens, which was shown once for about 1.5 minutes. Then they have the main house with about 8 different locations inside, and they have 52 different scenes happening in that one house, which is the vast majority of the film. But to keep it from being boring, they broke it into all these different spaces.
Before dinner? Your bedroom's upstairs on the left. Her Majesty's in there having a nap.
How is she?
Which include the exterior of the house 3 times for 1.5 minutes, the front entrance 5 times for 3 minutes and 15 seconds, the stairwell 4 times for 2 minutes and 10 seconds, Maud's room 8 times for 2 minutes and 20 seconds, Amanda's bedroom 9 times for 11 minutes, the kitchen area 9 times for 7 minutes and 45 seconds, the living room lounge type area 12 times for 11 minutes and 15 seconds, and Amanda's bathroom 2 times for 18 seconds. Now, why am I showing you this in such detail? Because locations, for me, are the biggest production challenge of an independent film. And if you can plan them as smartly, not just in the production of it, but in the script writing of your film, like they did in Saint Maud, you're gonna have a much easier time and honestly a better time producing your film because it's actually gonna be doable with a limited amount of resources. Okay, the second major thing I told you about was decoration and set design. What do we mean by this? It's one thing to have a location and a set, and it's one thing to have it look really good or actually well-dressed for what you're trying to do. And this is a problem for indie films because usually you don't have a lot of money. Good set dressing, good production design costs money. And what I think Saint Maud did really well is it's obvious that they found a lot of locations that look good, that they look ready to film. They didn't have to put a bunch of money into it to get ready to film with the actors.
May God bless you and never waste your pain.
That way, they were able to take Amanda's room, where a lot of the film takes place, or Maud's room, where a lot of the film takes place, and they could spend the money that they did have painting the walls the colors that they looked, putting the right props and stuff so it felt produced.
I looked her up before I came here. Dancer, choreographer, minor celebrity.
So what is the key strategy here? Finding locations that are ready to shoot so that you can invest the resources that you have in key locations where you're going to spend a lot of your film. And remember, the amount of locations that you have directly ties into how much production design you're actually going to be able to afford. The more locations, the more the money you have is going to be watered down into. The third thing I mentioned to you was actors. even though I listed third, it is the most important part of your film. If you have great locations and great production design and great cameras and incredible equipment, but you have bad performances, what's the point?
You know, I've been thinking it might be nice to go out sometime. To the theatre or something. And I'd have no clue what to see, but I'm sure you could suggest something. And maybe after I leave.
I want to go to bed.
It's 5 o'clock.
I will go to bed when I damn well like.
Yes, of course.
I tell this to young filmmakers a lot. Stop obsessing over gear, start obsessing over performances, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to keep your audience in their chair and interested in watching your film.
I've got more important things on my mind.
Oh, yes, of course. Well, how could mere human frivolity possibly compete with the Heavenly Father's warm heart pulsing?
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, of course, when you have a big budget, you can have as many speaking parts and as many actors and extras as you want, have a cast of thousands. But in independent films, you're really better off going with a small cast of characters where you can really focus on their performances and the audience can see those actors work their magic. And remember, from a production standpoint, the more actors you have, it's not just that you have to pay the actors. That's not really the point. It's you have to schedule them, you have to have hotels for them, you have to have transport for them. There are really a lot of complicated logistics that increase the more actors that you have. All right, we're gonna take a look and see how Saint Maud did this, because I think, again, they were really smart with the amount of characters they used. And look, if you look on IMDb, it says that there's a cast of 17 people, including the voice of a cockroach. But really, on screen, you really see 6 primary characters, and the other 10 or so are either on screen or not for less than 30 seconds or somewhere around it. So the principal character is Maud, played by Morfydd Clark, and of the 83 total minutes, 5 minutes of credits included, 36.5 minutes of screen time with just her on the screen. Next is Amanda, played by Jennifer Ale. She has 20 minutes and 40 seconds on the screen, including one group scene. The character of Joy is played by Lily Knight. She has 5.5 minutes of screen time. Carol is played by Lily Fraser, has 5 minutes of screen time. The character Richard, played by Marcus Hutton, has 1 minute and 44 seconds of screen time. And one more character by Turloy Convery is on the screen for about 1.5 minutes. And pretty much everyone else is on the screen for less than 30 seconds, or doesn't have a speaking part, or is in a group scene. And this is another important point. Your locations have to look right. So if you have a diner, you need people in the diner, or you need a really good reason to have it empty. And Saint Maud's locations only have a few where they required a bunch of extras. There's a couple diner bar scenes, the scene on the beach, and the house party. So they were really good in limiting their locations to places where you don't need a lot of people. And for most of the film, it's just Amanda and Maud on the screen, and there isn't a single scene in this film that doesn't have Maud in it. So it's definitely a character-driven story, which is a great approach to independent cinema. As a final comment on this, I would guess that about 85% of Saint Maud only has 1 or 2 actors on the screen at any one moment. And I think that's a really excellent production strategy for indie film success, which is limit the amount of characters in your film and the amount of characters who are on the screen at any one moment so you can focus on great performances from a smaller cast.
Ever since I moved back here, I keep thinking about that last moment and wondering what it will be like. What will I be looking at? Will there be anyone else there? And then what?
Wardrobe. And if you look at Saint Maud, they did this really intelligently. You know, if you look at all the different actors in the film, there's really only 2 primary actors that the film is on most of the time, and that is Maud and Amanda. But they also did another smart thing, which is by making Maud a nurse, they greatly limited the amount of wardrobe styling that they had to do. Now, whether or not that was intentional is not my point. It's smart production. And yes, Maud has, when she's on the beach or she's at home, she's wearing different things. And for each new day, you generally have a new piece of wardrobe. The only thing I want you to remember is by limiting actors and limiting the amount of different scenes that you're in, you can reduce your wardrobe costs and you can focus on your main principal characters having a great look and investing the funds on the people who are going to be on the screen the vast majority of the time. And as a quick aside, normally in the indie world, you basically just pay your actors a little more to bring wardrobe that you approve and you're good to go. Hydrate. 5, complicated elements. What do I mean by this? I mean makeup effects, stunts, explosions, bullet hits, anything that's kind of out of the normal. And this also includes actual physical driving scenes. When you do these cheap, they tend to look cheap. So as a producer, you want to make sure if you're going to put these moments in your film that A, you do them very sparingly, and that B, they're done well in the scenes that they are done in. Looking at Saint Maud, there's really only about 5 or 6 scenes which had CGI, and then one big stunt scene, which is the final confrontation between Maud and Amanda. And they use these incredibly well because they're exclamation marks in the film to sort of keep the viewer interested of this potential supernatural element, and the rest is just done with incredible psychological suspense and amazing acting. So this is a very smart choice from the writer-director and the producer to produce an indie film at a good budget level and only use the effects where they're really needed and to be able to put the right amount of money into them to make them look great. So instead of doing 50 effects shot in the film, they did 5, and they made those 5 look really good. Okay, that's really it for this breakdown on Saint Maud, and I really want to do these because I know imagining a film can be overwhelming, but if you understand the Lego blocks, which we've covered, that are a large part of what make up a film production, I believe it can make it easier to visualize yourself making a film, and even more importantly, at the very beginning, writing a film that you can actually get done. Because I'm sure you have 1,000 stories that you want to tell, but if you actually start getting films done and you take them to festivals and you get them in front of people, there's going to be producers who like your work, and the better the job you do, the more money you're going to have to play with, and the greater the resources you'll have for each of these different areas, not to mention all the people who make the magic happen behind the scenes. All right, I hope you liked this, and look, if there's a specific film that you want me to tear apart, just let me know in the comments below and we'll get to it. Other than that, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on what was helpful or not of this so I can make better content for you. That's all for this episode. Thanks for watching Dear Cinema. So before you go and before the ambulance gets here to take me away to do a Saint Maud hospital scene, just remember there's a lot of other content on this channel that talks about the different parts of filmmaking. So take a moment, look through the other categories that we have, whether that's VFX, editing, or books you should read as a screenwriter. My ambulance is here now. I'll see you in the next episode.